Lower Ninth Ward a lot, which was flooded. We did a lot of, I waded through water to get dogs off of porches. A lot of breaking and entering to get dogs out of yards, out of houses.
Frankly, the strongest feeling I got down there as I left was, my God, there are these incredible groups doing a ton of work that I've never heard of.
I walked into this house, and because you're so focused on what you're doing, you're not really paying attention to what's around you. You're just looking for an animal. And I walked into this one room. There's a dog on the floor, dead. And I look around the room, and I realized I didn't walk into this room through a doorway. I walked in through a hole. The dog, in a terror-stricken panic, trying to get out of that house, broke through the wall.
The whole thing that happened with Katrina, I think that it had to happen, but in some ways now, if people ever find themselves in a situation like that, they'll be able to take their animal with them. I could never leave mine.
If it's too dangerous for me to be here, it's too dangerous for my animals. Now, I understand there were stories that National Guard at gunpoint told people to get on the bus and leave their animals. My attitude is different. I go, my animals go. My animals don't go, I don't go.
Fuck you, leave my animal. I mean, fuck you, I'm taking my animal.
Look at the face. How could you leave that? How could you not rescue that? How could you ignore your humanity and turn away from that? You know, the groups that had all the money, you know, the SPCA and HSUS, they weren't the ones on the ground in the field.
I don't see any cuts or wounds on.
There wasn't one show that gave credit to any other organization except for HSUS.
I guess part of the problem is, you know, we're our own worst enemy because we weren't there for the press. We didn't hold press conferences. You know, we didn't make ourselves visible. We didn't take the time because we didn't have the time.
Yeah, HSUS likes to scoop in and take a lot of credit for a lot of stuff. And they're very big and they're very powerful.
The Humane Society of the United States has no relationship to any animal shelter anywhere with the name Humane Society. They don't run a single pound, a single adoption shelter anywhere. They advertise as though they do. They send direct mail fundraisers with pictures of puppies and kittens. It says we have to support pets, we have to adopt, spay, neuter. And so people write checks thinking, oh my goodness, this is going to support my local. No, nonsense. The money goes to a $100 million a year animal rights lobbying group in Washington.
But HSUS keeps saying this is the worst disaster. No, correction. This was the biggest success for them. They earned more money off this disaster, and we have to stop that. Every time a disaster comes, along comes these monsters that prey on you, and they're hoping for a disaster because they prey on your emotions, collect that money.
How much money did you raise on the backs of those animals in New Orleans, and you left those animals?
Worth magazine, a few, maybe it's been a couple years ago, did a story on HSUS, and they wound up giving them a D because they spend over 50% of their income on fundraising.
They have not opened up their books at all for Katrina, let alone what they make.
It's against the law. If you ask a 501 where the hell the money is, they are required by law to tell you. So HSUS, to me, and to a lot of animal rights people, feels as if it's turning into Enron. You want me to say Enron without fucking?
Well, now that the Louisiana Attorney General's office is investigating the use of the donations taken in during Katrina from the Humane Society of the U.S. and also from the Red Cross. Frankly, that's a lot of do-re-mi they took in, and they need to be accountable for how they spent it.
They were the lead agency. They failed. Please do not let this agency ever head a disaster again. They failed. They should pay for this. There's no excuse for it.
51 years ago, when the HSUS started, they were here to reduce overpopulation and abuse. 51 years later, and nearly $10 billion donated to these national organizations, that's still our problem. And we've seen really virtually no improvement at all to speak of. I think that's sad. I think the world is a better place with them than without them, but I do believe that to whom much is given, much is expected, and they have fallen very short.
I think if more people understood that a check that you write to the Humane Society of the United States doesn't go to your local animal shelter, that money would dry up in a minute.
Because if you're still contributing after this movie or after any of this to HSUS, Humane Society of the United States, or, and Howard Stern did endorse us, or PETA, or any of these other big corrupt organizations that are just an empty shell, they're another Enron, then you're an idiot.
I wonder why PETA and HSUS didn't want to do this movie.
Yeah, do you think they had something to hide?
People say to us sometimes, well, why are you spending all of this time and money and whatever on animals when there are so many people who need help? And my rude answer to that is that people who ask questions like that usually aren't helping anything or anybody themselves. My polite answer to that is that, in fact, people who care about animals usually care about people too, and vice versa. It's all part of the same thing. That people who grow up being kind to animals, being taught about kindness to animals by their parents and their teachers, generally turn into very good citizens, and the opposite is the case. People who are unkind to animals are usually not good around other people. It's actually part of the law in many cities and municipalities now that if the animal control officer discovers abuse of animals going on in a household, he or she has to report that to the child welfare authorities.
Thank you, Jeffrey Dahmer. The serial killer connection. Had it not been for the FBI study saying there is a direct connection between serial killers and animal abuse. Now, what does that mean for us in the world of animal welfare? We have been screaming, prosecute animal abuse. It matters. These lives matters. To us, it matters. To the general public and the people that create budgets, it may not matter. But now, there is a connection to the person that kills people probably started with animals.
Here's some easy way, because there's 4 steps. Start with an adult dog, not a puppy. You need to have a second dog in your life, so 6 months or a year later, go get a puppy that would be compatible in size and energy level. Make sure it sleeps inside the house at nighttime, and make sure it's spayed and neutered. And from that point in time, literally, most of our overpopulation problem would be resolved.
You have to open up all of this to the public. You have to tell them what's going on, because they don't know, and they think that just getting an animal is something maybe they can just put in the backyard or discard or do. No, it's not. It's responsibility, which we've talked about. It's loving the animal. And I think a lot of the groups that are sort of, maybe, if you want to say radical, have brought attention to the animals, though. And that's the important thing. That, to me, is the most wonderful. Not that I agree with a lot of the way they've done it, but that is very important.
This is the definition of my life. Lying in bed in the sunlight, choking on the vitamin tablets. Got to get in the hole to save the man.
Boy, it's been a rough week. It's been a hard week. It's really hard when you have this jury sitting there and the prosecution gets to open first. And so they spend a whole month hearing about what a monster you are. And you just get to sit there with no chance to rebut it, no chance to, stand up and tell them, like, what does this have to do with me?
So Josh Harper finally decided that he would go up there and talk. And I said, listen, I've got to go up there. I've got to talk about these animals because I have a feeling that we're going to lose. So at least let's hold our head up high. And if we're going to lose, let's be noble about this. And at least let's educate the courtroom. Let's educate the jury. Let's talk about the animals and why we're doing these protests, why we're involved in the Shack campaign.
I wonder, like, how people sitting out in the gallery are viewing it, because I know that from my end of things, we tend to get pretty myopic. I mean, I saw one juror who looked like he was about to come out of his seat when they were showing the Thomas Perna video, which was a couple of the co-defendants doing a home demonstration outside of this woman's house, and somebody spit on her screen door, and they were screaming in her face.